So now, yeah. Uh, so Joe Phillips took you to the Virginia Beach Dome. Were you still a short-haired kid in the Boy Scouts? Like, you were pretty young, huh?
Oh yeah. I guess I was I guess I was in my well, I'd say late teens, early teens. I was a teenager. And
Okay.
um and that was one other memory that I was going to tell you about was was not only uh that time when Joe Phillips was writing, he was the editor of Action magazine, was a supplement that they put in with the Virginia Pilot Ledger Star, and and that was like the the appeal to the teenagers that would want to read about the what's the rock and roll um, thing attraction for to the Virginia Pilot and Ledger Star newspapers was to attract the teenagers about the rock and roll bands that played there, like Jimi Hendrix, the Hollies, the Who. I saw all of them, and also when growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, um, I also when I became like a teenager in high school and a little bit later on, uh, they would have in Norfolk they'd have um, bands playing at the Dome, the Virginia Beach Dome, and then and then when um, when I was when I was in Richmond, we had the I'm sorry, I was still in uh, I got my geographical attachment confused that I wasn't in Richmond. I didn't move to Richmond till college time after I graduated from Old Dominion University, and I came to Richmond to go to. I had conditional acceptance to MCV VCU,
Yeah.
Medical College of Virginia, Virginia Commonwealth University. As a graduate student, I had uh, conditional acceptance as a graduate student for the School of Hospital Administration, and that's what actually brought me to Richmond. And but uh, going back to high school, they had well, let's say when I came to Richmond, we had the dome was actually uh, that was when I still lived in Norfolk. They had the Virginia Beach Dome, and that's where some of the bands were playing. But then in Richmond, we had the Scope, was the big convention, cultural and convention center, was actually um, was actually the Scope, Norfolk Scope,
Yeah, it's
and that
in.
was equivalent to the Dome, and the Dome was in that was Virginia Beach Dome. Let's see, the Dome was at Virginia Beach uh, Cultural and Convention Center, and music um, acts and bands were playing at the Dome at the Virginia Beach. Let's see, Virginia Beach had the Dome,
Right,
and Norfolk
and
had the Scope.
right, and who? And I know about the Richmond one, but who? What bands did you see at the Virginia Beach Dome?
I saw Jimi Hendrix. and his band was called the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And then the the Hollies I saw, and the Who, the band called the Who. Well, they didn't just call it. I guess they did call it the Who, WHO, and that was a three-person band of rock and roll. And then let's see, the Who, the Hollies, Jimi Hendrix I saw live, and at some point Joe Phillips, he was the editor of Action Magazine, and he got the some of the bands to actually give me their autograph, which I lost the actual the Who, and Jimi Hendrix. I actually did at one time. Joe had gotten for me. Joe Phillips got the editor of the of the Action Magazine, it was called, and he got them, several of the bands, to get me autographs. Which now, since that time, I've lost them. But
Right, but it's possible Carl has them, and then
it could be
and then
unlikely, but
yeah,
if you get by there, get him to look through my stuff, which
yeah,
is a various array of a bunch of, to some people, very authentic autographs. So they might still be in existence, but I think they're lost now. And but when you get by there, get them to look and see if there's, through any of my stuff, if it's and if it's still in existence, which I probably don't have it anymore. But Joe Phillips, the editor of the Action Magazine, did get me some autographs, some authentic autographs.
neat. And also tell me about how Joe would get the tickets, and you told me he would leave you in the VIP section maybe after the show sometimes
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk to interview or try to interview the rock stars. Tell me a little about that. What?
Oh, okay. Well, since Joe Phillips, the editor of Action Magazine, the supplement for the insert into the Virginia Pilot and Ledger Star newspapers, Joe would actually interview these bands and write up a write-up as part of the supplement to the newspaper. And so on occasion, he'd be interviewing them after the show, and he'd bring me, because they gave him a couple backstage passes, so I was able to go in the back, and and Joe Phillips would be interviewing him for the write-up that he'd do a write-up for the supplement to the Virginia Pilot Ledger Star newspaper called Action Magazine, and he would be interviewing him, and I think he'd have his picture taken with him sometimes, and then he'd have his notes where he'd write a little story for the supplement, the Action Magazine supplement, about it, and on occasion I was able to sit back there with him, like backstage pass kind of thing.
Neat. Do you remember any much about what it was like in the backstage there, or what you thought?
No, just that they just had finished the concert. And I don't recall if I ever got, like, maybe the drummer might have given me, or given to Joe, and he'd give it to me, maybe a set of drumsticks, or the guitar picks that they had actually used playing the guitar during the concert. They maybe give us some little, uh, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
So they might say, "Here, kid,
Yeah.
here's a guitar pick that I was actually picking the guitar during this concert, which would be worth no money to anybody, except it'd be a treasure to me and my memories, which now that I'm 68 years old, my memory is suffering from a little bit of memory loss, but it'd be like $1 million memory. And like the song goes, I've got $1 million memories, but I'm down to my last dime.
Yeah.
And I forgot what song that comes from, but it's a popular used to be a popular rock and roll song. 40 or 50 years ago? Let's see. Yeah, 50 years ago.
Yeah, and then sometimes you got posters maybe that they
Yeah.
likes, or pictures. Tell
And
me
just
about
like,
that.
yeah, just like now, you can get, maybe you'd get a picture with them. I don't recall having had my picture taken with the band, but Joe Phillips, the editor of the Action magazine, he probably had his picture taken with him, so that when he'd do his write-up for the weekly supplement, the Action magazine, he would actually have his picture taken with the bands, which to him was a great memory for him, and then it'd be a good insert for his Action magazine for the young readers, to make it more popular for the young readers to read that part of the newspaper. And so that's why they started the Action magazine, was to appeal to the young readers at that time. And Joe was a good enough guy, my dad's best friend, and he was nice enough to bring me, and maybe sometimes one of my brothers or sisters maybe could go back and have a backstage pass and be there. And that's how my memories were, of having actually be right there with the members of the Who, I know the Who was one time, the WHO, a popular rock and roll band back 50 some years ago, maybe 52, 53 years ago, which, let's see, 53 years ago, I'm 68 now, so I would be maybe 16, 17, 18 years old back then. And like the song says, I've got $1 million memories, but I'm down to my last dime now. But I actually had a chance to go back there and have my picture taken with them. I can't tell you the names of the artists, the musicians that played there in the Who or the Hollies, I know the Union Gap was another popular band at the time that we saw. There was actually Jimi Hendrix. I actually did, I guess you would say, meet the Jimi Hendrix himself. I didn't ever recall getting a chance to talk to him, but Joe Phillips did, and he interviewed a nice interview for the Action magazine, and I know the Hollies was one of the bands, and Joe had met them and interviewed them and got his picture taken with them for the Action magazine, and the Who, the Hollies, the Union Gap, Jimi Hendrix Experience was the name of their band. And then there was probably, I guess, maybe 20 different occasions with 20 different then popular musical groups.
Yeah, they were up and coming, and everyone knows the Who now. And they did Teenage Wasteland, maybe named after you. And he told me that he even interviewed the Rolling Stones and Mick Jagger.
Oh yeah, which I don't recall being in that one, but I'm sure Joe Phillips, the then editor of Action magazine, would have that wonderful memory. God rest his soul, because he's not with us anymore either. He's gone on now in heaven, but yeah, we got to see him, we got to hear him. I do remember back then, a memory that comes to mind right now is my ears would be ringing for hours, because back then nobody thought to wear earplugs or those kind of look like earmuff kind of things that suppress the music of many, many decibels, more to hearing damage, probably, more than anything else. But at the time, it was all in good fanship. I was a good fan. I probably wasn't even really a fan because they were new and up and coming, and I thought I was a young hippie or hipster, or I thought I was really something else, being able to listen to the bands, these real popular at the time bands. And it'd be real interesting to know how many of the musicians and all that are still alive and with us these days, being that it's I guess 50 something years later. Like maybe I'm 68 now, so maybe 68 now. Back then I might have been 16 or 17, or I don't know if I went when I was 18, but I also got to see a couple of the bands. This was a different venue. Was when I was in high school. I had a part-time job down at the Norfolk Scope, selling peanuts, popcorn, and mainly the popcorn. We'd sell that for we had the Red Wings hockey team, and we had the Norfolk Scope. We had the Virginia Squires basketball team, and I was lucky enough to, at the time, to get a part-time job going up and down the aisles selling sodas, Coca-Colas, and boxes of popcorn, and we carry the big tray around our neck with a canvas strap, and you'd walk up and down the steps of the auditorium at Norfolk Scope and yell out, popcorn, peanuts, get them here, and then you'd stop and people would get by. We called them sodas, the Coca-Colas, or might have been Pepsi, one of those. And we'd carry trays of them held up on an aluminum little tray of some kind of soft drink and boxes of popcorn, the Cokes, the popcorn for the people to buy from you as you walked up and down the steps of this gigantic stadium. And back then I was in high school, and I'd be thinking I was making all kinds of money as a vendor, selling the popcorn, peanuts, Coca-Cola. We had the musical events, but we'd also have we had the hockey team. I think it was the Tidewater Red Wings was a hockey team, ice hockey, and then we had the basketball team, the Virginia Squires, and we'd walk up and down those steps of the Norfolk Scope.
Let me ask you this: if you ever saw Eddie, the Beach Boys?
I don't recall seeing them.
How about Humble Pie?
They might have played too. I don't recall that.
Yeah.
But they probably did play back then at these places.
Did you know Fairport Convention at all?
No.
The Grateful Dead.
Oh, I wish I could have, but I can't remember that. I don't recall it. You know, they might have. I don't know if did the Grateful Dead play in Norfolk, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they did.
Yeah, they did.
Tell
me that story about when you all went to see Elton John in New York. I think you were telling me about it. You all drove up there.
Oh yeah. Well, when we were younger, we were very much involved in trying to go around to these different concerts, and yeah, we did one time. We drove up there, but I can't recall all the details. But we did drive up there, and then like a lot of them, I can't. There was also we went more as these times would be as a fan, being out there trying to either buy a ticket beforehand or scalp a ticket, you know, from people that had come around and followed the bands, and somehow they'd buy a bunch of tickets and then they'd sell them once the concert sold out. They'd scalp the tickets. They'd try to make a few extra bucks on the tickets. And I recall one time even in Richmond, being out there where Virginia Commonwealth University is now, where we went and tried to get some tickets and go to some of the concerts, you know, and they'd sell out, and then there'd be people walking around outside before the concert started saying, "Hey, I got tickets," you know, like $20 or whatever, and you'd be in the crowd trying to get a ticket. and get in to see it. I think James Taylor was one of them that we went for and got tickets and went in to see. And it was real fun back then.
What year did you
And
graduate from high school?
I graduated from high school, Norfolk Catholic High School, in 1971, and then I graduated from Old Dominion University in 1976. So that I was on the 5-year plan
And then,
because
oh,
oh
sorry, did you work at Scope before you graduated or after?
oh yeah after before I graduated, it was like a part time kind of just you know they would we'd work maybe for the hockey team, the Virginia Red Wings ice hockey, and then we'd work when they had the basketball team was the Virginia Squires. We'd work for those, selling the concessions, the popcorn, peanuts,
Yeah, the
wrestling. We
terms,
had wrestling too, and the wrestling we actually sold beer like that
the
instead of and sodas.
the Who did the Grateful Dead did Scope in '68, but that's probably, and then Deep Purple played in '69, Steppenwolf in '69, Jeff. So
Oh
maybe
yeah,
you had to see some of them. Who knows? Yeah.
I'm not sure about those. I'm sure if there was a way, I was out there because during that period of time in my life, I managed to get married and have a wonderful son named Carl, who's now 43 years old. But back then, he was just the glimmer of hope or the apple of my eye or whatever. But during that period, I had the son and was able to graduate, work my way through and graduate from Old Dominion University in '76.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
And you know what
it,
Joe told me? That
oh,
back then, he could interview those up and coming bands, but now, this before he died, he was like, nowadays, those up and coming bands, local reporters can't even talk to them.
oh,
They only
gee,
talk to the big ones, and then they distribute
wow.
the story. So I hope T has some of that. That would be neat if T had pictures of him with the rock stars and Virginia Pilot. So my buddy Paul has the story he wrote about the Hendrix at the Dome, but a lot of those stories aren't out yet. Like
Oh,
Virginia Pilot's starting to put them, slowly put the old archives out, but they only
good.
go back to like I think around the '70s. But Paul got this story from some fan or something, which is neat that he told me
Oh,
that. You know,
oh yeah,
Joe.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the $1 million memories, and I'm down to
Mm.
my last dime.
Yeah.
Luckily, I still got the $1 million memories, and luckily, I'm not down to my last dime yet either. But I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
Do you remember anything what it was like walking into the dome or when you're coming up to it or
Yeah, we'd come up. Uh, I'd ride with some of my friends that happen to have a car, or a lot of times I'd ride my 10-speed bike down there because we
mm,
lived in the area called Ghent of a very nice uh, area
it's even
that,
nicer now?
yeah, it's even nicer now, and we were lucky enough to have grown up in Ghent
Yeah.
along the old Stockley Gardens that goes all the way downtown to the Norfolk Museum. And Norfolk was a great place to grow up and a great place to have friends and family, and then the Larchmont area that was right near Old Dominion University. Me and my wife, ex-wife now, had raised a son there, right in the Larchmont area. Right, we were living in Bowling Square apartments that you could walk to Old Dominion University and raise a son.
Y'all
He's
did a
43 now.
Y'all did a good job raising him.
Yep,
and there were bars across from ODU. There was the King's Head Inn.
Oh yeah.
Friar Tuck's.
Mhm.
And so it was neat. And a lot of little bands played there.
Oh yeah.
Paul found.
And like the other song goes, he's not the only hell my mama ever raised.
That's a good one.
But we'd raise hell, and I mean, I guess that's old expression for raising Cain.
Yeah.
But
y'all did right.
that's what they wrote the songs about, is growing up experiences that people had